Good afternoon again, everybody. And this is our turn to present the literature reviews about the title of research practice in categorization and move analysis of international business emails. It is a case study of the International Relations Office at a Thai university. And next, Mei will introduce you about the first part. Let's introduce her.
Thank you, Khaosuay. First, I will share with you some review about genre and discourse community, role of emails in communication, and related previous studies. There are three approaches or traditions to genre analysis. The first one is the Australian work in the tradition of some systemic functional linguistics. Also, we call it the SFL approach. And the second one is the teaching of English for specific purposes. And we can call it ESP approach. And the last one is the new rhetoric studies developed in North American composition contexts. Yeah, and then we can call it for short the new rhetoric approach. As for the SFL approach, genre is a staged, goal-oriented social process, structural forms that cultures use in certain contexts to achieve various purposes. This approach emphasizes the purposeful and sequential character of different genres and reflects Halliday's concern with the ways language is systematically linked to context, especially field, tenor, and mode. In this approach, genres are social process because members of a culture interact to achieve them. Also, they are goal-oriented because they have evolved to achieve things. And lastly, they are staged because meanings are made in steps, and it usually takes writers more than one step to reach their goals. In the ESP approach, a genre comprises a class of communicative events, the members of which share some set of communicative purposes. These purposes constitute the rationale for the genre, and again, this rationale shapes the schematic structure and constrains choice of content and style. So communicative purpose in this approach is a privileged criterion, and that operates to keep the scope of a genre. Bhatia concluded the definition of swells. He said that a genre is a recognizable communicative event characterized by a set of communicative purposes identified and mutually understood by the members of the professional or academic community in which it regularly occurs. And Halliday also say something about this definition. It's similar. And the goal in this approach is to describe the constraints and group practices of writing in academic and professional contexts. In the new rhetoric approach, genres are a motivated functional relationship between text type and the rhetorical situation. Text types survive because they work, because they respond effectively to recurring situations. This approach focuses on the rhetorical contexts in which genres are employed rather than detailed analysis of text elements. And greater emphasis is given to the ways that genres involve and exhibit variation, and this leads to a far more provisional understanding of the concept. This approach tends to use qualitative research tools like interview observation, which explore connections between texts and their contexts rather than those which describe their rhetorical conventions. There is a detailed comparison between these three approaches. You can have a look. From our understanding, we summarize that the similarities and the differences between these three approaches are like this. Between SFL and ESP approach and new rhetoric approach, we can see the differences that SFL and ESP are both started from text to context, while new rhetoric starts from context to text. And the second one is that the first approach both emphasize more on the formal properties and communicative purposes, while new rhetoric emphasize more on rhetorical context. In the first two approaches, genre is regarded as a static product which the researchers can analyze their structures and some other features. While in new rhetoric, genre is regarded as a dynamic process. And between SFL and ESP, the difference is that SFL view genres as resources available in the wider culture, while ESP approach views the genre as the property of specific discourse communities. From the three approaches, in our present study, we concluded that genre is a successful class of communicative events conducted by a specific discourse community members who share a set of communicative purposes, which are the privileged criterion to generate the categories of genre and which shape the schematic patterns and influence language choices. So our present study will apply the more ESP tradition-oriented approach in this work. So in our work, from the previous studies, a genre can be identified from the communicative purposes a specific discourse community share. And besides this, they share the schematic patterns and the language choices. So in our study, our specific discourse community is the International Relation Office in universities, and the communicative purposes is to share information and to seek collaborations among other international universities. And they always use the emails which have some specific patterns. So in this study, our genre is email in the International Relation Office in the universities. So for the discourse communities, there are 6 criteria to define it. Later, my partner Khaosuay will introduce you more about it. So I will just skip it. And for the communicative purpose, there is not a a specific criteria to identify it. From a research article, the author said that there are the official communicative purpose and the hidden communicative purpose. So for the official communicative purpose, it's the generally socially acceptable purpose. And for the hidden one, it's a more covert purpose, which is not necessarily accepted or known by all users of the Runra. So for the communicative purpose, we will based on the previous studies to decide it. As for the move structure, a move is a discoursal or rhetorical unit that performs a coherent communicative function in a written or spoken discourse. Also, Tony and Jones said that a move is a part of a text that realizes a particular purpose within the text. So it's similar, the definitions. So this is the summary of our subject in our present study. The email is a Runra. As for the categorization of emails, we will categorize the emails based on the communicative purposes. As I said before, there isn't a criteria to identify it. So we will borrow the framework of this article to code and to identify the communicative purpose in our study. This framework I showed you last class, so I will just skip it. Here is the total categories of the communicative purposes. They are transmissives, responses, response forward function, or information request directive, etc. So the second part is the role of emails in communication. We can say that emails is used as computer-mediated communication, and different people with different cultural and language background adopt English to communicate in their emails. In emails, messages are more speech-like and direct with few formalities of letter writing. Email is used progressively for spontaneous interaction in intercultural communication. And it is the dominant mode of communication in most professional contexts. Many studies argue that email communication represents an effective communication system to maintain interpersonal relations and build long-term business relationships for successful negotiations, not dissimilar to face-to-face interactions. And there is ubiquitous use of email correspondence in all workplace environments these days. So as for the third part, related previous studies, the emails in the workplace, there are 3 previous studies that are most related to our present research. The first one is conducted by Ornikowski and Yates in 1994. They analyzed the emails in a computer language design project. They aims to explore the communicative practices in a community aiming to design a computer language. The, the primary data in their study consists of the transcripts of almost 2,000 electronic mail messages archived from December 1981 to December 1983. And besides this, the background information and perspectives for interpreting these messages came from a series of two-phase, semi-structured interviews. In their work, they put forward the concept of genre repertoire. They defined it as the set of genres routinely enacted by a particular community. They found that the genre repertoire of this community revealed a rich and varied array of communicative practices that members shaped and changed in response to community norms, project events, time pressure, and media capabilities. Their analysis establishes the concepts of genre and genre repertoire as a means of understanding communicative action as a central aspect of a community's organizing process. So from the table, we can see the coding the categories based on the purpose. They developed the FYI, matter, comment, proposal, question, response, and others, these categories. And furthermore, they defined four genre type in their study, namely memo, dialogue, proposal, and ballot genre system. So the second previous study is conducted by those centers in 2002. They focused on the business letters of negotiation exchanged by fax between the companies. The author aims to explore moves and steps in the business letter of negotiation and the lexical grammatical choices which categorize each identified rhetorical function. They collected 117 commercial letters in English exchanged by fax between a Brazilian company and two European companies. These letters were analyzed in terms of shared communicative purposes and the rhetorical features, which together contribute to the building up of the resulting generic structure named as business letters of negotiation. From his research, he found the most common issues exchanged in the letters are description and of complaints, marketing and sales plans, etc. And there are four obligatory moves identified, namely move 1, establishing the negotiation chain, move 2, providing information or answer, move 3, requesting information, action, favors, and the last move is ending. And you can see he also analyzed some specific steps under each move. The third research is conducted by Alf Len in 2015. In this study, the author focused on the educational institute emails. He aims to investigate the moves and communicative purposes used in the email messages that were exchanged in a Malaysia private educational institute. He collected 522 emails to identify their communicative purposes and related moves. From his research, he found that email writers used 14 moves, six framing moves, and 8 content moves. And email writers used the 14 moves that are mainly 6 framing and 8 content moves. The 4 main content moves reflected the main communicative purposes of the emails that are discussing issues, inquiring about issues, couriering or delivering documents, and informing about organizational and academic issues. The 4 communicative purposes varied in their structural organization, number of recipients, and reaction to receiving the email. We have a confusion here about the 4 communicative purposes within the 14 moves. So we saw that moves and the communicative purposes are different concepts. But in this study, the author mixed them together. So maybe we should read more or to discuss with you in tomorrow's class. So you can have a look. The author identified 14 moves. And from these 14 moves, he identified 4 communicative purposes, like informing, discussing, inquiring, and questioning. Jiminy also conducted a textual analysis of emails, and he analyzed some textual and communicative complexity of business emails. And he suggests that this complexity has resulted mainly from efforts to accommodate the genre to the new demands of the international business community. Except for the emails in the workplace, there are some studies focused on other genres in workplace, like letter of application, direct mail letters, sales letters, company audit reports, editorial letters, and weblogs. So from the previous studies, we found that there's no criteria to identify communicative purposes. Besides, little research apply interview or other instruments to triangulate their findings. In addition, many focus on the genres in companies. Little pay attention to the workplace in the educational context, especially that no study explores the genre in the specific discourse community of the International Relations Office. So these previous studies build up the foundation of our present studies. So next, Khaosuay will share with you some detailed information about discourse communities.
Thank you, Mei.
About discourse community.
Right, thank you. I think Mei has covers about the genre analysis, move analysis, and also the related research that will be related and be the background of our research. And next, I will introduce you to know about the discourse community of the emails user and focusing on the context of the IMUTI, our university. So the discourse community based on SWARE 1990 will be the base of our research because we believe that the discourse community is the study that we can focus on the people who write, both produce and receive the emails. And according to the characteristic of this course community, this course community should have an agreed set of the common public goals. And they use this mechanism of intercommunications amongst their members. And it has to involve this mechanism to provide information and also the feedback. So one or more than genre are utilized in the communicative persistent, and they have acquired some specific terminology or lexis. And this course community should have a level of members with a suitable degree of the relevant content and use the discoursal expertise. So based on our previous studies, I have found 5 background. Some are the researches and some are the any other document. The first is the study about the scenario of Rajamangala University of Technology Isan as a professional and technology university. It has done in 2012 to observe about what can the university can help improve the professional and technological people in our university. Another 2 examples were taken from the study in Rajamangala University of Technology Lana in the northern of Thailand. And the first has done about the effort for internationalizing the university in qualitative case study. And the second is the challenges for internationalization, again in the higher education institute, but in the area of Asian economic community in the qualitative case study. And the reason why we put these 2 research as our background, because in Rajamangala University of Tenri Isan and in Lana, we both have the same strategies of administration. And next is the research. It is the annual report from the Rajamangala University of Tenri Isan, implemented in 2017 to print in 2018. They will tell about what is the situations and what is the current happen in the university. And the last is the story and information from the president office of IMUTI and presented in the website of university. And I would like to tell you some background about the IMUTI. There are 9 Rajamangala universities opportunity in Thailand, and in RMUTI there are 4 campuses located in northeastern part. And in this study we focus only in Nakhon Ratchasima. And according to the mission of the university, we would like to be a leading quality university which can contribute to society by using international standards of higher education, implement the innovation and research focusing on science and technology. So we have to find more participation about international relations with overseas university and also the institute. For example, we find the student and faculty exchange, joint training programs, and organizing academic conferences and seminars, and also the academic cooperations. Focusing on the cooperations, we would like to develop academic and research strength by carrying out academic and research cooperation with the organization both from Asian countries and in other countries. For focusing on the duties of Office of the International Relations, the office is like the bridge to coordinate among RMUTI, Thai and overseas universities, institutions, and organizations. There are two offices inside the IRO. The first one is ICS, International Cooperation Section, and another one is ISC, the International Study Center. So let's see the responsibilities of each section. For the first one, International Cooperation Section, they has to facilitate the scholarship, both for studying, for training. Sometimes they have to send the people to attend international seminar, doing the research project, or exchange the lecturer or staff members and also the student. So the people in this office has to find and develop academic cooperation with another university. Sometimes if there is a ceremony of signing ceremonies, they have to cooperate with the academic agreements, and they have to prepare for transportation, give a reception in honor of the university. They have to invite administrator and related member to the ceremony. And for the international study centers, the officer here has to store as the international databases to coordinate, to collect, classify the academic information amongst the university. And sometimes they have to provide passport and visa services for the university administrator and staff members when they visit other countries. They have to do the document about the official correspondence, to produce the prospectus sometimes, to welcome guests, visitors, and lecturers. So the important roles of the officer here has to coordinate and organize international conference, to conduct the seminar activities and special affairs both regionally and internally. Focusing in the context of IRO, International Relations Officer, they have to enhance the cooperation to build the capacity of the university to coordinate with the different international projects. They have to search for a scholarship or the exchange program both for the student and for teacher. And to work at this, they have to strengthen international environmental threats. But from the study, it showed that if the professional staff have the specific duties and responsibilities, if we have the professional staff like this, we can increase both the cooperation and negotiation amongst the universities. But the research showed that developing personnel's career path and competencies for the staff in the IRO office in RMUTI are neglected. Conversely, a growing number of correspondence email use between the university and between the foreign institutions, especially in the age of computer-mediated communication. So the ability of the staff and the growing number of the emails is contrast. Let's have a look about our collaborations for international. This one is the example of the cooperative agreements between RMUTI with universities and institutions overseas. The first example is from Europe country in Hungary and from Asian countries. So some of our collaborations are from the university. Sometimes we have to deal, the person in IRO have to deal with the institute and in the organization like the ambassador of some country. So if I would like to study about the discourse in international relation offices, most of the study I have found related to the international relation office in terms of politicals. But for our study, I have found three research or three background study that will be related to this research practice. The first is from Austin, from the book How Do Things with Words. So it mentioned about the speech act, that the language is a social action. Both the constructive provide information and formative perform certain acts. For example, we can study, observe, investigate the text that simultaneously reflect and produce in a given context. In our study, we would like to focus on the context on the context of the international relation office. And another example from the diplomatic correspondence. This one is the manual for the student of the international relation faculty. The reason why we use this manual because it shows that it is a great importance to prepare standardized form of the diplomatic communication when you contact amongst nations. And diplomatic correspondence is an art of communicating among states and putting into written form important information, discussion, and the agreement essential to the product of foreign relations. And in this manual, it shows different types of diplomatic correspondence, instructions, reports, process of the preparation, drafting, and handling. And this study shows the appropriate way of how to correspondence in our international relation. And the last study from the study in Indonesia. In 2018, the researcher conducted the research to explore the English needs of the student of International Relations Department as Indonesian university context. And the study showed that writing emails message is the first ranking in descriptive statistics. It showed that it is the first one which is the strongly perceived needs from the student in this kind of area in the international relation. And it comes to the research gaps of our study. And the first research gap is, as Mei has mentioned already, that the emails, most of the emails that we have studied about the genre and move analysis focusing on the business emails. Most previous study focus on business context and little pay attention to the education context, especially in the international communication between university. And another thing is about the email genre. Email genre is like the subset of speech act. And you can see from your experience that in some part of the TOEIC test use the scoring rubric to assess EFL learners, how they're effective using the emails in workplace. So in the emails using in workplace have many different speed acts. For example, they can write email to asking questions, making a request, giving instruction, or conveying information. And the next part is the email categories and move. Most of them are focused on the correspondence in business, for the request and response to the complaint. For the move analysis in the emails, most of them concerned academic research in business emails, and some of them studied about the tourism, the complaint, and how to respond to the complaint. And the last step is about the generalization. I think we think the result of this study might not be generalized, but it can present the realities of the language used in the specific situation and in the specific office, because we focus on the time duration from 2017 until 2020. And the reason why we choose 2017 because it is the first year that we have got the students which are from Cambodian, and these students are offered the scholarship from the Her Royal Highness Princess Mahachakri Sirinthorn grant the scholarship to the Cambodian students. So it is the first year that we have to deal with the university in Cambodia within English email. And another factor is about the person who is the president of University Council, Dr. Surakiat Satyen Thai, because he is the ex-Minister of Foreign Affairs of Thailand. So we increase the cooperations, and also we have high number of exchange teachers and exchange students who got the scholarship from that time. So we believe that we need to categorize the emails and conduct the move analysis of international business emails, focusing on the international relation office at the Thai University. So we too would like to thank you for your attention, and we are welcome for all questions and feedback. Thank you very much.